Hi, everyone. This is Heather Hodges. I'm an organizational psychologist. Welcome to my show. This is the place where we say I'm in to creativity, bold thinking, transformational growth, and meaningful conversations. Today's guest knows a thing or two about performing at the highest level. Steve Mellor went from being a world-ranked swimmer and Olympic coach to becoming an executive coach trusted by entrepreneurs, CEOs, and elite performers around the world. He's the author of Shock the World, a competitor's guide to realizing your potential. And he brings a powerful message that the pursuit of your optimal self begins not with perfection, but with purpose and self-awareness and the courage to grow. So in this episode, we dive into what it takes to build a mindset for sustained performance, how the principles of athletic excellence translate to leadership and business, and why the best performers never stop learning who they can become. So whether you're leading a team, chasing a big goal, or trying to redefine what high performance looks like for you, this conversation will challenge and inspire you to keep reaching for your own version of greatness. Steve, welcome to the show.
I am so excited to be here, Heather, and I just can't wait to see where this conversation goes.
I know. This is a delightful, serendipitous occurrence for me. We met earlier this year.
That's right.
At Thrive. We were introduced by a mutual friend, Jake Thompson, who is Jake, the man, compete every day. And Jake and I go way back. We've known each other over 15 years. I was living in Austin, way back when. So it was so fun that Jake knew that you and I just needed to meet each other.
Right.
And he could not have been more right.
I know. Nailed it.
He
Nailed
did.
it.
Absolutely. So as we jump into our conversation, the first question I have for you, my friend, is what does it mean for you to say, I'm in, to stepping into your full potential?
The word potential is a funny one because I wrote a book about it, firstly. But the one thing I've always noticed when it comes to pursuing my own potential is when did I have the decision that it was, okay, this is worth it. Like, this is actually going to be worth it in the long term. And for me to say I'm in, it's for me to say, this will be worth the effort. This will be worth the time. This will be worth the sacrifice. And we go a little deeper when we say things like that into understanding why we're doing it. What are some of these true reasons behind us even coming to the start line in the first place? But when I look at all the different chapters of my life, from the athlete I was to the swim coach that I was, to the husband I became, the father I became, all these different parts, at some point for me to say, I'm in on going for it and stepping into this new role or this new chapter, I had to say to myself, well, brother, is this going to be worth it? Is this something you are truly seeing the worth in for you to step to the starting line and know that once you begin, because that's the thing you'll learn about me, Heather, is that once I'm in, I'm all in. So once I get to that start line, I have to have already figured out, hey, is this going to be worth it or not? And if it is, I'm in.
Wow. So you said it 10 times just then, worth it. Is it worth it? What's the discernment process for you to know whether something's worth it or not?
Firstly, I need to see that there's an alignment in my value and the investment that I'm going to need to make. And so for me, when I look back even to my childhood, all I did was play. All I did was play. That was like, if there was a word to summarize my upbringing, it was play. And the reason I say that is that every single time I was playing, at some point someone would say, hey, you want to come play? You want to come play outside? You want to come hang out? And I'd be like, well, wait a second. I love playing. I'm great at it. And as far as I'm concerned, this person that is asking me to play is someone that I would love to go play with. So I'm in. Let's do it. This is totally worth it for me. I see the complete alignment in value. and the alignment in what it is I'm trying to get out of this. And it's funny now when I even look at, you know, as a father today, and I look at my own children, and I actually see them in these moments making decisions and learning for the first time. Is this something I really, one, want to do, but two, I actually can see my value in? And the best account of this, Heather, that's happened recently was that I saw this passion in my now 6-year-old daughter in the last 6 months for the stage. And I saw her watch, we wouldn't just watch Disney movies. She would get off the couch, she would dance, she would sing, and she wasn't just dancing and singing. I mean, she was performing. She was performing. And I'm looking at this girl and I'm like, you know, Daddy used to do that. Daddy used to perform. But Daddy didn't necessarily have people around him that would recognize that he was performing or that this was a passion for him. You know, he kind of had to go find it for himself. But I see it in you. I also know you're a very shy girl at heart. So this will be a challenge. But this is the perfect example, Heather, of what I mean by, is it going to be worth it? Because she knows she's shy. She knows that she's going to get to a point where she's asked to go on stage in front of people. And when I presented her with this idea, hey, we're going to do theater. We're going to do Christian youth theater. We're going to give it a go. It's going to be 10 weeks. I just want you to get a taste of it. And hey, if you don't like it, you don't like it, and we'll talk about it. And around week 7, week 8, she started to realize that there was a performance coming. There was going to be a showcase at the end of these 10 weeks, and it would require getting on stage. And suddenly the nerves kicked in. Suddenly the hesitation kicked in. Suddenly she wasn't as eager to learn lines with Daddy because she was kind of trying to avoid the thing altogether. But then came showcase night. And Heather, oh my gosh, the adrenaline kicked in. This girl walks up there. She's not only doing her line, she's looking at her fellow actors and actresses like, it's your line, it's your line. Like, come on. She knows everyone's line. She's getting laughs on the stage. I mean, she's crushing it. And by the end of it, she didn't want to leave. And I'm like, well, she's in. She's all in on this idea of performing. And why? Because at some point she had that decision to make at the start line. It's like, is this going to be worth it? Is some of these resistances that I have internally, can I overcome them because of the passion, because of the potential that I see for myself on the other side?
Oh my gosh, what an amazing story. And I mean, it beautifully illustrates exactly what you're talking about. And just like, brava to your daughter. That's
oh my
just
gosh,
fantastic.
like tears in my eyes. I mean, I've never been more proud in my life. I tell stories about myself and these heights of sport that I've been to, and already this is literally a week ago. This story is so new, and I just smile from ear to ear just thinking about the result of that whole process. You know?
Yeah,
so.
You know what they say: the shortest distance between two people is a story. And what a beautiful story that illustrates just what it means to step into your full potential. And for her to step into her full potential, and even though she is introverted, she can become a site-specific, extrovert, stepping onto stage and overcoming any of those obstacles that might have prevented her from being who she fully can become. Wow. Oh, great. I mean, just beautiful illustration of obstacles, values, being worth it on the other side. So thank you for that. Thanks for taking us there. So, as our listeners are, most of our listeners are listening, not watching, but they can hear something different about your voice. So you're a Brit, but living in Louisiana.
So I tell people, British born, Baton Rouge based is my one liner, especially when I'm at conferences, because people will see this lanyard like hanging from my neck and it says Steve Mellor, Baton Rouge, and I start talking and they go, wait a second.
That's not a Louisiana accent.
Do you have the right lanyard? Is that the right? And so I have to just lead with that. It answers a lot of questions very quickly. But my whole background is the sport of swimming. So as I alluded to earlier, that play was a big part of my childhood. Sport was a big part of my childhood. I played every sport under the sun. Swimming eventually won out in terms of where my true talent lied. And, this is another great example of me understanding like, hey, listen, despite the adversities, despite the the sacrifice that will come? Do I see my value on the other side? Is it going to be worth it in the long term? And for me, I made a decision around the age of 15 to start attending one of the centers of excellence in England. There's only 4 in the entire United Kingdom, and I was fortunate enough to be within an hour of one, which is still a distance, but it was close enough for me to say, worth it. It's worth it to try. It's worth it to go. And for 4 years, I would wake up at 4:15 in the morning. My dad, for the first 2.5 of those 4 years, would hop in the driver's seat and I'd sit in the passenger seat. He'd drive the hour. I'd get out, practice for 2 hours, get back in the car, come home, go to school, and then rinse and repeat in the afternoon. But I would take the train because my dad would be at work. And I was doing that 5 days a week, you know, as a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old. And I didn't, once I committed to that being the process, I didn't blink from that moment on. I just said, this is what it takes. This is it. This is, I've committed. I've decided that it's going to be worth it in the long term. There's no time for questions along the way. We're in it now. And for me, I blinked and I was 18, 19, and I decided that I was going to commit to swimming with the British team in the UK for 2 years before then accepting an opportunity to move to Raleigh, North Carolina to swim at North Carolina State University. And it was there that I fell in love with college swimming and decided that in my master's degree, when I was getting a master's degree in management, I would try collegiate coaching as a graduate assistant. And lo and behold, loved it enough to say, let's go give this career a try. And Baton Rouge, Louisiana State University was literally the first job available on the job board when I went and looked. And I quickly realized I had like 8 points of contact between myself and the head coach at the time. And so I said, listen, either this guy's going to be absolutely sick of me and never want to talk to me, or he's going to be completely convinced, like, I got to call this guy. And fortunately, it was the latter. We joke to this day that, you know, it was a fine line. I was really pushing it. But at the same time, I knew I really wanted the job and I wanted that opportunity to be in the SEC. And that's eventually what came to it. And 9.5, 10 years of swim coaching later, Baton Rouge, Louisiana became my home. It is our home now as a family. I met a girl from Louisiana about 9 years ago. And we now are raising a pair of British Cajuns. It's a very rare breed. It's a very rare breed, but so far it's a successful test. They're doing pretty good. So
wow. Yeah. What a fantastic story. So that's how you got here. You swam
that's
here.
How I got, that's what I tell people. I swam here. That's right.
Oh my gosh. But you just having that drive from early on, you know, the age of 15, what a commitment.
Yeah.
Twice a day. Yeah. And okay, so you and I have something in common. So we've both gone to school and swam in England. So did you know that I lived in England as a kid?
I don't think you've told me that.
Yeah,
I think I feel like you may have mentioned the England thing, but the swimming thing.
Well, my first swimming lessons were in England. And
okay, that counts.
Yeah,
that counts.
So that counts. I didn't swim competitively in England, but you know, swim lessons. But even just going an hour anywhere in England, that's a haul. That's not like in the US where we just get in the car and like it's an hour drive down into Dallas for me. Like that, you know, and I do that, you know, twice a day, all day.
Yep.
That's a commitment. And for you to have that commitment early on and then, you know, swim 2 hours twice a day. Wow. That was, you know, phenomenal. So you knew right away, like, is this worth it or not? And the answer was yeah.
100%. And, you know, so I love that, you know, that an hour drive, there is no such thing as an easy 1 hour drive in England. And so it's little things like that. It would be wonderfully convenient if I was living somewhere where I could hop on an interstate and 60 minutes later arrive at my destination, but that just isn't a way in England. And so it's those little things. And again, if you stop for long enough to question almost the logic, or maybe in that case, the lack thereof, you start to immediately ask these questions that show doubt, that allow for doubt to creep in. And this decision that you made at one point, like, hey, I decided a long time ago this was worth it, you know, and if I allow, you know, a difficult week of training, or I allow a phase where I'm tired all the time, to start forcing me to go all the way back to that starting line and asking that question. It's the wrong time in many ways to ask the question, because you're now in a position of weakness, and you're saying to yourself, like, in that moment of weakness, is it worth it? And it's always you're always more likely going to lean towards the doubt that's creeping in, and the second guessing of yourself. And in my case, as I started to level up, the imposter syndrome that would kick in as well, is that you're around athletes that are further along than you are. And you suddenly ask that question again of just like, gosh, is this really worth it? Like, the gap feels so big. But I decided at the beginning that it was worth it, and I'm not at the destination yet. And so I need to be really careful right now that if I start asking that question here, when adversity is around me, when doubt is creeping in, likelihood is I'm not going to be as convincing in the way I answer that question now. So those circumstances are huge when you think about a question like, hey, is it going to be worth it? So for me, I was very fortunate throughout my journey to just have the right one or two voices in my ear whenever those moments would creep in and say, Steve, you can stop at any point. However, you've given me so many reasons as to why you want to do this. And so let me just remind you of what some of those reasons were. And I'm like, I needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was, and there was a simplicity to that too, which is what I always appreciated. It was just like, nope, the goal has not changed. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So,
wow. You alluded earlier to your book, Shock the World, a competitor's guide to realizing your potential. And, you've told the stories about coaching swimmers, but you've also coached Olympic athletes. And now you coach business leaders. Can you walk us through that journey of how you went from swim coach to business coach? And, because I'm really curious, like, what you coach elite performers across different arenas. What do they have in common? And what's the mindset and the pursuit of potential from the pool to the boardroom?
Yeah. And for me, so the transitional part of that story, it came from my now long running podcast. And so what's funny is that I started this podcast in 2018, and my business was originally called Career Competitor. And the idea was that, not my business, sorry. My podcast was originally called Career Competitor.
Okay.
And the idea behind the podcast was that I was going to meet with former athletes and talk about, in regard to whatever they're doing today, what is it from your time as an athlete you're still leaning on that makes you successful in this new walk of life? And my mission behind the show when I first did it, or one of the main reasons for it, was that I always noticed that athletes would have a hard time when finishing their time and graduating, and they would start to, imposter syndrome would kick in. And it's just like, I've been my identity's been a swimmer my entire life, and now I'm walking into this job interview and I'm trying to be a version of myself that I feel like I'm not. And so I was actually doing it for my own athletes. Like, hey, I'm going to interview all these former athletes and let them tell you for themselves, no, this version of you've been developing all these years, it still has a value when you move into the job force, whichever world you decide to go into. And so that was the idea behind the show to begin with. And then COVID came, and believe it or not, when the world shut down, for a swim coach, you don't have a whole lot to do. So during that time, we were always looking for new things that we could possibly do as a staff and as a program at the time. But there was only so much that would fill my day, and podcasting became this thing that I could do a lot more of. And people wanted to be on interviews because they wanted something to do as well. And the show just kind of took on a life of its own from that point. We moved away from simply the former athlete, and we just said, hey, listen, you've got a proven background of being a competitor. We want to talk to you. And the list of people just started to completely bombard me. But
wow.
there was this turning point around towards the middle of 2020, heading into 2021, where almost every single guest for about 20 to 25 episodes straight, when we were done, they would say to me, Steve, is this what you do for a living? And I'm just like, I would never podcast for a living. My wife would leave me tomorrow. And they would say, no. Like the way you ask questions, like there's something about the way you ask questions. You've not got questions written down. you're listening on a deeper level. And because of the ability to listen, you're asking more meaningful questions. And people were telling me, I'm literally learning things about myself through our interview, which they're like, this makes no sense to me. How are you doing this? How are you getting this out of me? And I was just, hey, I'm a good listener. This is always kind of how I've coached athletes. Like, I'm really much more on the people side than I am on the science side. But then after like 25, 30 people telling you this, you sort of go, okay, there's something here that I'm personally not allowing myself to embrace and see, but they obviously see it in me. And lo and behold, I decided, after what was my greatest success as a swim coach, when I put LSU's first ever American on an American Olympic team in 2021, about 2 months later, I decided that, hey, I've climbed the mountain of coaching. It's not what I thought it would be, but I have this world over here where people are almost screaming for me to come into. And while I don't have an ounce of business and I don't have a single lead right now, I'm going to jump. I'm going to go see what it's about. And lo and behold, just like those other stories I've told so far, I sat with my wife and just looked at one another and said, is this going to be worth it in the long term? Is this going to be the decision that I look back on many years from now and say, yep, all the work that I've had to do to get to where I feel I'm capable of getting to will have been worth it. And here I am now 4 years later, almost to the day as we talk, Heather, when I actually created my LLC, which was Career Competitor at the time, just because I was like, I got a podcast, I'll just call my business that. And then lo and behold, after a couple of years of building the business, the name made no sense to what I was actually doing. And we've now evolved into Growth Ready, which is everything that we do. And the best part about that too, in terms of the commonalities, which was the other part of your question, to that of coaching elite athletes and those in the business and corporate space, is that it all comes down to one commonality, which is that of human behavior. And you know this as well as anyone as an organizational psychologist, that's what we all have in common. We all behave similarly in similar situations, whether there's a swimming pool involved or a boardroom involved. Tension is tension, adversity is adversity, high performance is high performance, high stakes is high stakes. It's all the same stuff. The players are just different and the field is just different. But outside of that, is a human being eager enough to work on themselves, to do the sort of work that's going to allow them to become more self-aware of the ways in which they might be getting in their own way? And that's the best way I describe what I do, is that at the end of the day, we all need help getting out of our own way. And when you utilize coaching in its most truest form, the coach is creating a shared space to allow for someone to discover what they need to get out of their own way. And that is what I was doing in swimming all those years. The only difference now, as I joke with most audiences, that those audiences back in the day, they used to take their clothes off, and most audiences now keep their clothes on. That's the main difference. That's the main difference.
That's a good thing.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Oh, but you're so right. People are people, and we have a predictable pattern of behavior, thinking, feeling, and doing. And whether you're in the pool or at work, we bring ourselves with us.
Right.
And sometimes we got to get out of our own way.
And everything we've been speaking to so far about, potential and whether it's worth it, like athletes, the greatest growth I would always see in an athlete was when they were brave enough to come to me and say, here's something that's getting in my way. And it had nothing to do with their stroke. It had nothing to do with the way in which they were training. It was all between the ears. It was something they were carrying that they finally decided they were brave enough to share with me. And in that little window that they created for me to insert myself, I could come in and get to know them on a level that now allowed me to coach them better. And that was something in the world of sport that was, and it will continue to be, lacking, sadly, is that most coaches want to keep the foot on the gas. They want to push the athletes. And I get it. I understand. I was that athlete who appreciated that from time to time. But the one thing I've seen as this world has evolved, especially in the last decade or so, is that the greatest amount of growth in an athlete, business owner, executive, whatever it is, the greatest kind of growth comes from when that individual is willing and bold enough to come to the leader, come to the coach and simply say, here's an area that I know I'm getting in my own way, where I know I'm holding myself up. Help me get through it. And if that person, if that coach, if that leader is willing to meet them in the right space, from that point on, growth is almost it's almost a guarantee. I hate to use a word like that, but everything in my world of sport proves, when I look back on all these athletes that I got to work with, the ones that let me in enough, were bold enough to let me in. The results spoke for themselves. Everything took care of itself from that point on.
But that person has to have the self-awareness to realize there's something tripping me up. There's something in my way, and it's inside me. It's not my competitor. It's not looking around. It's not the water. It's not my stroke. It's not something. It's not a threat from the outside. It's something from the inside.
Yeah, and that was always my gift as a coach. Was typically I could see some of these things. The athlete was wearing them. They were walking around with this aura of someone. It's just like they've got the weight of something on their shoulders. And I would just keep asking, hey, everything okay? Hey, anything I can help you with? And if I keep asking the 9th time, the 15th time, the 23rd time, by the 31st time, they're going to say, actually, Steve, there's something I want to talk to you about. And I'm like, cool. And I've known since the first time I asked there was something that they wanted to talk about, but it's not for me to tell them that they have something to talk about. It's for them to decide that, because I think you and I both know from our experience is that any individual, to your point around self-awareness, like once the individual decides the work's there to be done, it's a completely different result from that point on. When someone's being dragged into that growth, it's resisted from the very beginning. And can they see that they're in fact searching for a solution as opposed to being diagnosed with a problem? And that is such a fine line. But I see it all the time in my work, and it's why I've actually started to completely turn away any potential client that says, hey, we have this person in our organization that needs your help with. I'm like, sorry, we don't do that at Growth Ready. We don't do that. We don't do that. When that individual themselves is ready to come to me and tell me what they would like to develop about themselves, I would love to come do some work for your organization. But as long as you're diagnosing the problem and this person is having to meet with me because of a problem that's been diagnosed for them, it's never going to be a mutual relationship. And coaching can't happen if that's not the case.
Yeah, they're not growth ready at that moment.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. I'm glad you got there. I'm glad you got there. Like that's the whole brand, all the work we've done in our branding, Heather. Like for you to say that to me, it's very encouraging that you could see that.
It was clear.
I like to believe that. It's good.
No, but it's so interesting though, and I hope that people that are listening to this can recognize this in themselves, because I certainly see it in me. Is when we're not ready, we defend against what we know we need to do. Like I will put up those defense mechanisms within myself. Like I will guard it and not be able to break through on my own. It's when I can internally say, okay, defenses down. Then can I step into my optimal self, which is what you write about in Shock the World.
Yeah. And for me, I talk about it in my world today as the critic versus the curious. The critic versus the curious. Like you said, that moment when the guard comes down, you finally decided that, okay, I'm going to shift from being my own critic to getting curious. I've decided now. I'm ready to get curious. I'm ready to wonder what could be going on. What is it I'm not seeing that I could be seeing? Because like you said, it's so easy for us to self-criticize. I do it every day. I've probably done it a couple times already today. Like it's so easy for us to do. But for me, like the work is in the curiosity. It's in that ability for us to drop the guard and really just step into what it means to be, like you said, growth ready. But and it's funny because one of those guards that I put up on myself, and maybe you can relate as a still new author, is when you bring up my book, I'm just like, oh yeah, I wrote a book. Oh yeah,
recently, just a couple years ago.
Right, I am an author. What about that? What is that? What's that? Maybe you should lean into that a little bit more, Steve. But I'm always just like, I guess I'm an author. It's like, no, why can't you just say you're an author? And that's a whole nother part of this conversation.
Yeah. Well, okay. What's up with that? What are you defending against?
What's funny is it's that in this world, that I operate in today, as when I'm the coach and someone comes to me and presents a predicament similar to this one that I'm alluding to now, I can very quickly go, okay, in my head, they've created a picture of something that represents, in this case, an author. They've created that picture. And for whatever reason, the picture they see in the mirror is not the same as this picture that they've created for what it means to be an author. I can do that so easily as a coach. And again, it's not for me in that moment to tell this person that that is the case. It's for me to sort of walk through this with them and eventually come to some sort of awareness on their own around that, which is typically what it is. In my case, I can tell you right now that I wasn't a failed English student. Sorry, I was failed as an English student. So as an English student, I had English teachers that would tell me that the way I wrote was wrong. They would tell me that. They would say, now, you have a writing for media. You write in a way as though you are talking as opposed to writing. So instead of looking at me and saying, you have a talent for this, they would prefer to say, you're wrong in the way you're doing it. And that was something I carried. How can you not carry that in those formative years of childhood? And so for me, when it came round to actually writing the book, I sat in myself for months before I committed to doing it. And I just said to myself, you have to write this in your own voice. Like, to heck with all this stuff that you were told growing up. People need to read this and be like, if it weren't for the fact that this was in the written word, I would almost hear a British accent. I would hear Steve coming off the page. Like that is what I wanted. And once I got clear on that and I created my whole storyboard of what I wanted the book to look like from start to finish, you talk about being in, it took me 4 months to write my book. And from start to finish. Yeah. And I created a plan. I had 3 mini writing retreats where I would lock myself in a room for about 48 hours. And just with only no phones, no distractions, no nothing, just write. And once I got the book out of me, I then started to condense it down. But the reason why I was able to do it in such a short period of time was that the book was already inside of me. I just needed to sit down and get it out. And by protecting that time, as I like to call it, like protecting the time to do the work, it allowed me just to get into that flow state. I've always been one of these people when it comes to the creative side of me that I need to be away from everything to truly unlock my creativity. And so like I did what I had to do for me to be successful in my process. And that was just the journey of writing the book. And, you know, if I'd created it and people were just like, man, you can tell you wrote this thing in 4 months, it's a mess, then I probably wouldn't tell you that story. But fortunately, I've sold quite a few copies. I've gotten a heck of a lot of feedback about it, and it's all been mainly positive. And so for me, I know that I achieved not only a quality book, but also I was able to write it successfully in my own voice. As everybody, I literally had some people tell me like, Steve, I can hear you. I can literally hear you in this book. And for me, that was the achievement that I was trying to get to. And so, yeah, in terms of what that's about, in terms of me really leaning into being an author at this point, it's about me really putting myself more so in situations where I'm inclined to lean into being the author. Like, you simply asking me that question immediately insists, okay, shift into what it meant to write the book and being that version of yourself that wrote a book. I'm simply not getting enough reps in that. And that's probably why I'm not leaning enough into what it means to be an author. And if I was to coach myself in this moment, I'd be like, brother, put yourself in some rooms where you got to be an author. Like, put yourself in some rooms where you got to talk about this more and become way more familiar with it as well. Because obviously I'm ready to write another book. So it's like, well, there's obviously something there, dude. There's a passion there, and you've decided that it's worth it. So let's go. What's up with that? It's time. Yeah.
I love hearing about your creative process. That it was.
I had to bring that up with you. I had to bring my creative process up with you.
No, I love learning about that from from other creatives. And I think the retreat is a big part of that for you. It sounded like that distractions, hurry, noise, all of, the phone, everything that comes at us, bombarding us day in, day out, that you had to set that aside and just be with the work and let it come. It was already in you that it had to come out of you. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And again, as you know, you need a support system when you write a book. And I had to give my wife a solid 3 or 4 week, heads up, like, hey, I'm going to do another writing retreat in about 3 weeks. So if you need your mom to come over to help with the kids and all that kind of thing, just know I am totally unavailable for 48 hours. Yeah. And she was nothing but an absolute, just dime for me the whole time. Aww. She was just incredible.
She sounds amazing.
She is. People let me know consistently that I am punching far above my weight when it comes to my wife, and I am very happy and comfortable in that. So, yes.
Well done, you. I can't wait to meet her someday.
Yes,
wow,
absolutely.
Oh, but backing up to something you said, because another commonality is, I've had British English teachers. Ooh. And my spelling, my grammar was messed up and also improved by those teachers. But it infuriates me that you were taught that early on, that your writing was subpar, when actually it was your voice and your own, just your internal dialogue that's coming out. So many writers, me included, I had to polish off the academia and the structure and find that voice. And that was always in you from the very beginning. What a gift, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. And I love that you can make that connection, because that's why I lent into the performing arts. Like, I was like, well, listen, if I can't write successfully based on these rules and conditions that you've created for me, where can this guy get out? Where can this creative get out and be accepted for what he is? And lo and behold, up until I was 18, in fact. So all those stories that I told you about swimming, I was also pursuing the performing arts at the same time. It was something that it was just in me from the moment I went to the theater, from the moment I was around that kind of world. I was like, I'm going to be one of these weird unicorns in school that hangs not only with the sports people, but also the theater people. And I was very comfortable in all those worlds just because it was me being my truest self. And I'll be honest, like, that has been, even despite some real adversities in my life, I don't know how and I don't know why. I'm sure it was God just being God and continuing to be the voice I needed to hear throughout my life. But I've always found a way to lean in and pursue my truest self. It's probably the thing I'm most proud of about myself, is like, can I just stay true to myself? If I can do that, will I be happy? Will I find fulfillment in this life? I'd like to think so. And I wouldn't say that I'm truly fulfilled or that there's days where I'm truly happy. I think we all have those moments where we second guess. But there's something in even that story around those English teachers, is that I felt they were trying to squash who I was at my core. And I always had this like internal rebellion in me, just like rebel in me, who was just like, hey, come on, you know who you are, you know who you're trying to be. Like, where can you find that? Where can you go be that guy and get that part of yourself seen and accepted, if you will. Yeah.
Wow. But authenticity. So much about, from what I understand about your work, that plays a part in purpose and values and potential. I'm curious, but when we think about that, what role does purpose play in sustaining performance? Especially after like someone has already achieved so much.
Yeah, it's a question I find myself asking a lot at times when I have these seasons of excitement and for what I consider to be success, and you come out of them, and I always describe them the same as whenever I used to be an athlete. You go through the season and there'll be this moment where you come back from the championship at the end of the season and you're sat in your bedroom and the season's over and you just sort of sit in it and you just go, oh, like, I just feel like I have nothing in my life right now. Even though the next season's right around the corner, you go from complete conviction and purpose in your life to just like, boom, It's the championship season's gone. Like Olympians, there's a lot of research that's been done on this. Like there is a true thing of the Olympic hangover. Is that this is a lifelong pursuit, a lifelong purpose. And then suddenly you go to the games, you perform, no matter how it goes, success or not, that typically is irrelevant. It's the coming down afterwards and folks trying to then reestablish their purpose from that point on, because that's your life's work. And it's just poof. You made it, you did it, then now what? And so for me, when I think about purpose, if anyone's listened to this and you sort of go, I don't know, do I have purpose? I think I do. I think our bodies become our greatest teachers in these moments. Is our body can typically tell us, am I light or am I heavy? Am I front foot or am I back foot? Am I hesitant or am I eager? You know, like our body's speaking to us on so many different levels every day. And I think sometimes, again, we try to overcomplicate things. We try to get really into the heart of our why and really into the heart of our goals and all this. You know, we can add so much structure around ourselves, but sometimes our body is literally just knocking on the door saying, I'm trying to talk to you right now. I'm trying to tell you, you are lacking purpose at this point in your life. And what can you do with that? And that was actually a big part of my transition back in 2021 when I left swim coaching, is that, you know, I reached the mountaintop in many ways as a swim coach, put our first athlete on an American team.
Yeah.
He was part of a relay that won an Olympic gold medal. It's like, it's just the story, but you can't get a better ending, right? It can't get a better climax to a story. The movie writes itself. But then I came down from that, and sure, I went into this lull, but my body immediately told me, it's just like, what you got out of this was not what you were expecting to get out of this. Like my body was telling me that right now. It was just like, I am telling you at this point, Steve, that you don't want to go again, that you don't want to commit yourself for a lifetime to this sport, and that disconnection between you and the sport long-term has actually been there for a long time. It's just taken something like this for you to really see it. Because it's like, if you can't get that connection when everything's literally as good as it gets, it's just never going to be there. But where can you find that connection? Where can you find a world and a life for yourself where you can lean into greater authenticity? And so my body told me all this, like, and I'm, as I listened to my body intuitively, I was able to start to course correct, if you will. I was able to meet with my wife and pray with my wife and just talk with her on a deeper level of just like, I'm feeling this right now. I'm sensing this right now. And I know these aren't things I want to feel and sense at this point in my life, especially by that point we'd had our second child. I was like, I know where I want my life to go, and it doesn't feel as though I'm on the right path for that, you know? But it was my body, Heather. It was my body that was telling me this, and my willingness to actually listen. And so where I was kind of going with this idea of anybody that's listened to this and maybe senses like, do I have purpose? Do I not? Just stop for long enough to listen to your body. When that alarm clock goes off in the morning, is your body ready to get out of bed, or is your body wanting to stay in bed? You know, when you're getting in your car to go to the office or whatever your respective world of work is, are you getting in the car with a true eager sense, or are you getting in the car with hesitation? Like your body's telling you. And if you're paying attention for long enough, your answer is right there. And then you have the opportunity to course correct however you please from that point on. But just start by listening to your body, folks. Like it answers so many questions that we sometimes don't realize it's answering.
You know, when I think back, I mean, first of all, oh my gosh, mic drop, Brother Steve, what wisdom you're laying down. When I think back on, you know, some nodal events in my life, you know, and I told you about, you know, being let go from a company. The signs were all there for me. You know, when I think back on it, I had acute appendicitis, depression, gastrointestinal problems, like you know, massive fatigue, Sunday afternoon slump. You know, the whole thing was there, and I just ignored it. And, you know, I just like muscled through because, you know, I'm strong. I can do this. Just, you know, get over it. But you're saying, pay attention. Your body's not lying to you. Something's up.
Yep. 100%. 100%. And it's funny, the first year and a half of when I started my business, my wife spent a lot of time in and out of the hospital in her previous job, and it was a reoccurring theme of her coming home, not content, not satisfied, feeling as though all the work that she did, she's a pharmacist by trade, all this work she'd done through education, years of education, the fulfillment that she was expecting on the back end just wasn't coming at that time. And there she was seeing her husband, off on the entrepreneurship trail, like wind in his back, couldn't be more excited about everything he was doing, supportive, but also honest, and just like, hey, listen, you don't need to stay in something that's going to make you feel this way. Yeah. Like I cannot watch you look like, and it's hard for me to talk about because it was a really hard 18 months, but it's this idea that when we went to hospital a couple of times, I'm just like, we should not be in hospital right now. We are at the wrong point of our life to be spending weekends in hospital. Like, what is it we can fix? What is it we can change? And lo and behold, it was something as simple as the place that she went to work. And the rest was history. It was like the 6 months after she made the change, health came back, vitality came back, like everything just came back. And it was just like, look at that. We paid attention and we just responded to what the body was telling us.
Yeah. I've had that same experience now that I'm living the entrepreneurial life, and wind is at my back, wake up every day, just, is it 5 a.m. yet? Can I get up?
It's right. It's Christmas. And it's funny because I'm actually going through this funny chapter right now where I spent the first 4 years of my business saying, I don't need to get up at 5 a.m. anymore and go work out like I did as an athlete. And then what's funny is that I kept getting up at that time and I would try to be creative. I would read, I'd do some work. And then a friend of mine recently just sort of said, like, Steve, when you did that, like, was it good for you to wake up and work out right away? And I was like, yeah, it was awesome. And he's like, then start doing it again. Like that clearly works for you. You're already up.
Yeah.
And so funnily enough, I've been up at 4:33 the last 3 days in a row as we speak today. And
what a random number.
I know. I'm very weird like that with the numbers that I wake up with in the morning. It's always been a thing of mine. But I know. And I've gotten up, I've worked out, and we're on almost hour 5 now of my day. And I feel energy. I feel excitement. My body's telling me, thank you for doing that, Steve. I really appreciate you doing that. And I'm not telling everybody you have to do that, but there's versions of that for everybody. Everyone can find those little 30-minute, 60-minute windows in their day throughout their week where you get to confirm for your body, yes, I'm doing something that my body wants me to be doing right now. And my body really appreciates it. Really appreciates it.
I mean, I noticed that from waking up to what I eat, getting the right amount of sleep. Like it's the opposite is true as well. Like if you listen to your body about the things that are working for you, pay attention to that too. Yeah. Oh my gosh. 100%. Steve, this has been such an insightful conversation. But before I let you go, my research assistant, Percy, the penguin, you know about Percy, he's the coolest member of the I'm In podcast team. Percy has a couple of questions for you. Percy, are you there? You've been knocking at the door. Come on in, Percy. All right. Okay, Percy, thank you for these questions. So Percy's first question is from a previous guest, Jennifer Maxwell. And the question is, what is your favorite podcast and why?
I can't say my own.
No, you got to pick something else. You can't say mine either.
No.
What does a coach listen to? Like, what does a high performer love to
what's
listen
funny
to?
is, and so as opposed to a coach, I'll actually go with a fellow organizational psychologist, Adam Grant, and Rethinking. What I appreciate about that is just the sheer diversity of that podcast. There isn't a single episode in common with the previous one, and sometimes that can be really good for you. It's like 35-40 minutes most episodes are. He talks to so many thought leaders from such a variety of backgrounds, and for me, the one thing I always want to make sure I'm doing as a coach is never allow myself to get too sure of myself and too consistent with a way of thinking. I want to always find different perspectives, different notions, and preferably from completely different industries that I'm not familiar with at all. And that podcast is so great for that. It allows me just to really get that insight of just like, okay, what's going on in this random world that I never considered even learning about, and what do I therefore need to rethink about myself too. So it's great for that.
Fantastic.
Really
Adam Grant, Rethink. What? Yeah. And helping us look at different perspectives. That's so good. That's so great. Thank you for that. So Percy also wants to know, what is a question you would like to ask a future guest?
What is a question I would like to ask a future guest? I would say that, so I'm a big foodie, and because I'd like to think that this is something they wouldn't be expecting. So knowing that you had only one option for a meal for the rest of your life, what would that meal be? What would that meal be for the rest of your life? And again, I'm a big health nut like you. I love my food. I'm actually I don't talk about it too much, but I'm a very good chef. It drives my wife insane because I don't follow a single recipe. I just do everything very freestyle. But I would love to know, if your next guest, if they were left with only one meal for the rest of their life, what would that meal be?
Okay, great question. Wow. I'll have to think about that myself too.
I know, it's a fun one, right?
Yeah, it totally is. Oh my goodness. Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your insights and your practical tools and vision with us today. I think your passion for helping others, perform at their highest level, it's inspiring. I know you've been a gift in my life, so thank you.
Thank you.
How can our listeners find you?
So growthready.com is a great place to start. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Steve Mellor, on there. And I'm at Coach Steve Mellor on Instagram too. But I am a big people person. So if you just want to chat, Steve at growthready.com. I think I've sent you the same link. It's gosh, the name of it's gone now. It's having a chat. So yeah, catch up. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. So I send you a 45-minute Calendly link. Yeah. Proper catch up is what I call it. Proper catch up.
Love that.
And so yeah. So anybody that wants a proper catch up would love to have one with you.
Fantastic. Well, Steve, thank you so much for your time today. It has just been the best part of my day so far.
Oh, you're so welcome. And Heather, just keep doing all this amazing work. I know it's appreciated and it's felt in so many different ways. So just encouraging you to keep going.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners for joining us in this conversation. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with somebody who could use a dose of creativity and inspiration. So until the next time, keep saying I'm in to creativity and bold thinking and transformational growth and meaningful conversations. May you be wildly creative in your life and leadership. I'll see you soon.